Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is Jonathan Lipp from the Big Apple Film Festival. Appreciate you being here. So this is our industry summit where we will be speaking with established filmmakers and screenwriters and producers and industry representatives over the next 3 days. And we will be discussing some strategies for getting your films made, financed, produced, distributed, as well as strategies for acquiring representation, an agent, a manager, as well as selling, optioning scripts, things of that nature. So our first guest with us is writer-director Ronaldo Marcus Green. So Ronaldo, how you doing? All right, if you could just unmute.
All right, if it gets a little crazy in here, I'm a lone wolf with 2 kids getting ready for school, so you'll just have to bear with me.
All right, no problem.
You'll see how it's done. This is how we make movies.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time for being here. And let me first just a brief intro. So Ronaldo, as I mentioned, is a writer, director, and producer. His debut feature film, Monsters and Men, had its world premiere at the Sundance Film Festival in 2018. From there, he went on to direct episodes of Top Boy on Netflix, as well as a feature film called Joe Bell, which starred Mark Wahlberg. And he recently directed a film for Warner Brothers called King Richard, which stars Will Smith, which is currently in post-production. So that's my brief intro, but I'll ask real quick if Ronaldo, if you could just give us a bit about, your background and kind of how you started out from your Sundance days and kind of where you are now. Jump in some questions.
Short answer, I was a baseball player growing up. I thought that that's what I was going to do for my living and my livelihood. Spent all my time on the diamond, and my brother was the studious one. My brother Rashad Ernesto Green, who was a filmmaker, and he decided to take the road of going to drama school. He went to Dartmouth, and I sort of saw his path all the way along. And then after he graduated Dartmouth, he went to NYU for acting, and then he started acting professionally on the circuit. And meanwhile, I had a few different jobs. My first career was in education. So I got my undergraduate degree, my first master's in education. I started teaching kindergarten through 5th grade. And I loved it. I wanted to be a superintendent of a school after my baseball dreams didn't work out. And then somehow I wound up transitioning to Wall Street, working in human resources, diversity for AIG. It was a girlfriend I was dating at the time. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but somehow I made the jump from teaching to Wall Street. And I stayed there for a few years while my brother's career was really taken off. And at that point, I thought, it's really cool. He's living this amazing lifestyle. He's traveling the world. He's going to Thailand. He's going to Germany. He's going to all these places that we never visited as kids. And I thought, how cool would it be if we made films together? But I didn't really want my brother to do it for me. So I really, decided, if I'm going to do it, I should probably do it the right way. And I applied to film school and I got in. So I left my day job at AIG. Went to film school in 2012, graduated in 2016, and here we are. That was kind of my path. I really wanted to produce movies. I wasn't really thinking about directing at all. So that was my path once I went into film school, was really to produce my other classmates, produce my brother. We made a short film together in 2012. So that was really the path. And somehow through film school, obviously it's a writing directing program, I was forced to direct, and I haven't looked back since. It's been a nice road. I can't believe I wasn't doing it earlier, and I'm really happy that I made the decision to finally direct, but it wasn't sort of a straight road to get there.
All right, cool. Interesting. It's a unique story, that you started out in education and you were working in business and made this transition into film. So if anybody has any questions regarding their current projects, anything they would like some insight into, feel free to put the question right into the Q&A box. And in the meantime, I will start by asking, if somebody has a script right now, they've never made a movie before, they've never sold or optioned the script, they don't have an agent, nothing. They're really just starting out, but they've got this really great script. what's the first thing they should do? I mean, clearly pitching an agent cold or pitching a studio cold is very difficult. What would you recommend?
Well, I went the traditional route, so I can kind of speak to that, which is film school, right? So through film school, professors and guest speakers, anybody that I would interact with, festivals, if I was, meeting someone at a festival, it's that network is what I had access to. And so, for instance, when I was in film school, I had a short film, but there's lots of kids that had shorts that never really kind of made it out. I thought the festival circuit was really the best avenue for me to meet other people. So when I had a short film, for instance, in 2013, I made a short film called Stone Cars. It premiered at Cannes in 2014. So that was, it was sort of a long road to get there, but I went to the festival. I had no money. I was like, how am I going to get there? It was like amazing to go, but they're giving you a very small stipend, and I had to find a way to get to France. And I was like, I don't know. And should I be going to all these places? Is it worth it? It's absolutely worth it. I was broke then, and I was even more broke by going to the festivals. But in meeting those folks, and honestly, it was really the other filmmakers, because some of the other filmmakers that I met along the way were in a better position than I was. And then I can ask them, how did you do it? Or, oh, you have an agent. No, oh, I loved your short. You were in the same block as me. Let me send it to my agent. So it kind of happened organically, but it happens by going and being in places. Obviously, it's a different world we live in now with COVID and not being able to travel in spaces, but you're still interacting on the Zooms, and you're still in these breakout rooms. And I really encourage, to try to attend as many festivals as possible. And there's no big or small festivals when it comes to that. Of course, there's the Sundance and the Tribeca, but I had just as much fun going to Ashland, Oregon, as I did going to some, Atlanta Film Festival, to places on the East Coast, to Big Apple Film Festival. There's lots of smaller regional festivals that, you can actually meet a lot of people. And, I would encourage people not to go with business cards and cards of their film. I know that's sort of like, it's what, they kind of teach in film school, but I found that just handing someone a card and saying, watching my short wasn't necessarily the path. It was really in dialogue. It's having a conversation with somebody, telling them that you saw their film and you really enjoyed it, or you can have a discussion. And I think through those organic conversations, that was really helpful to meeting people. And, and again, I don't think it's a straight path towards getting your script financed per se, but it's certainly building that network and eventually getting it in the right hands of some folks. If you're going the non-traditional path, obviously it's a lot harder. You have to knock on more doors. You have to hustle more, because it's, there's no straight path to kind of get there. But I would say getting in touch with producers, production companies, anyone that knows them can facilitate a meeting. It's always more helpful when somebody introduces you than you introducing yourself. It makes no sense, but that's just the way the world works. If I'm trying to date a girl, it's really hard. Somehow my friend who introduces me, it makes it easier for me to that interaction just becomes a little less awkward, because all of a sudden my friend says I'm cute, and then I go in, and then it happens. That's just sort of one example. It's a little bit like dating, and how do you go home? How do you go home with a number, or how do you meet somebody at a particular place? And a lot of times it's a lot easier when somebody else is introducing you or setting you up than it is for you doing yourself. But if you're really good at that, then great, you're going to be successful doing that. So you kind of have to know your skill set. Not everybody's the most, organic when it comes in those situations. So they need help. And I think we all kind of need help in those spaces.
Yeah, it's interesting too that you mentioned about, there's no festival big or small, because I've been to plenty of festivals that were not Sundance or South by or something like that, and it's so interesting. The people you meet your first of all your audience, people who want to see your project, as well as industry representatives, other filmmakers. So yeah, I think that's a really great point. So let me jump to a question here. So Sam has a question. He asked, would it behoove me to invite directors and senior writers to a festival-hosted live script read, in addition to managers and agents of production companies?
It depends on the state of your project. If it's really good, then yes. If it's subpar and you're trying to get notes, it might not be the forum to invite those people. I think, for instance, during when I was writing my scripts and I was getting them developed, that development process is obviously very tough, right? Because the first script is usually, they call it the vomit draft. It's not very good. And you share it with 3 people, your classmates, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever it is. And it's a really small circle. You don't want to send that draft wide. You don't want that draft going to agents. Maybe the idea you want to get into an agent's ear or a manager's ear, the idea, but not the script itself. Because if that thing gets exposed too soon, the writing will be scrutinized, and then you'll be sort of on the do not read list, and you just don't want to fall into that category. So you really want to be, you have to be your toughest critic. It's hard, right? Because you need feedback and you need people to tell you that it's not good. What I find oftentimes is that people, go out too soon, and it gets exposed, and then it's nobody wants to make it. And so I think you have to really know the state of what your project is in, and then hopefully once you've gotten some, I'll use the word accolades, for lack of a better phrase, but some traction, whether it's getting into a screenwriting lab, or you've gotten some notches under the belt with the project. It's gotten accepted into Sundance. It's gotten accepted into Tribeca. It's gotten accepted into the Cannes residency. It's got accepted into some residencies. So all of a sudden now your project is being pitched with some weight behind it. And I think that's really the way your project should be presented, especially without all those other, if you don't have an agent or manager putting you forward, you really need to try to present it. It's like you go to a restaurant and somehow they're able to charge you more by the presentation. It's the same food, but it's how it's presented. And I think it's a little bit what you're doing, is how you're presenting your project to the world. Now you're saying Sundance is behind me. Now you're saying there's a few of these other institutions that have said, I'm worth it, or my project is worth it. And it's not to say that you should validate yourself by those things. There's the difference between you saying, I didn't get accepted and I'm not validated. That's not what I'm saying, but it helps to have a few little, pieces behind you to then shape your project and present it to the world. And then, yes, of course, look, a reading is always a great thing to do. Do you need to invite agents and managers? Yes, I think at the point where you're starting to cast, I think for me, when I think about those things, I think casting is one of the things that get overlooked. If you have access to a great actor or access to great actors to get them to come into your read, I think it's hi guys. And and then I think that's those are the kind of things that you can do to really set up your project, is try to attach an actor, someone that could help give the project some legitimacy. And then yes, of course, I think the sort of script agent manager step is really towards the end, once you're really trying to get the financing of your film, but not necessarily trying to like workshop it in front of a bunch of folks that are supposed to give you money.
Right. And just real quick about Sam's question too. If Sam is inviting agents and managers to the read, how do you get them to come to the read? Or is that kind of what you're saying? Like if it has some accolades behind it, they'll be more inclined to show up and make an appearance and see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I mean, if Sam has the resources to make the short film itself, they've probably done enough, could get the resources to get a manager or agent there. Right. It's really hard. And family members and money, it's the same process. It's now in the industry. So it's through that same network, or the people that you're presenting that film to is asking everybody who knows someone if they would be willing to attend or would want to attend. I don't think cold calling is, I mean, look, sometimes, yes, you could get lucky throwing a Hail Mary pass, but I think there should be a strategy into how you want and who you want to be there, right? There's lots of production companies. just having random production companies come to your project may not be that helpful. If you were curating your own attendance, I would say, okay, let's say I was making a horror. I would identify the companies that do horror films. I wouldn't just invite blanket X companies. I would say, okay, here are the 12 companies that do what I do or do what I want to do or sort of on the path. And I would identify those companies as the place. So this way, I'm not just starting with thousands of production companies. I'm really curating that audience and saying, okay, that's a much easier target than it is trying to hit 200 and sending, dear production company. Like, that doesn't feel very specific. It feels generic, and I wouldn't go to that party. But dear Ray, I saw your film Monsters and Men. It's really aligned with the kind of work that I'm doing. It feels, at least in the same world, you know, I'm doing a different spin on the genre, but man, how you did that with actors. And look, that's on a personal director level, right? But then maybe on a production level, it's the films you guys make are completely aligned with the kind of stories that I want to tell. You know, the taste or whatever it is, or, you know, there's lots of ways to specify what you're looking for to get those folks to come. It's like anything. How would you get someone to come to your party if I was a new kid at a school? I would have to figure out, who do I want to come to my party and how do I get them there? And it's like, whether it's, you know, and I think it's just, how do you make yourself and your project attractive enough to make people want to come? And of course, if I get that person to come, 12 of their friends are going to come too. Right. And it's really trying to be specific about who you want to get to come to your party so that you can put the best strategy forward. But again, I would be doing the curation about who I want so that I could be much more specific in how I ask them to come. If I just want random people to come, it's going to be very, very difficult without saying I'm giving away free money.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. So next question, Mark, I would like to know, what would be the next step after being acknowledged at a film festival?
Acknowledged? I mean, keep writing. It depends. What do you want? Do you want to write? Do you want to direct? You know, look, you can't rest on your laurels, so to speak. You know, making a short film is part of the process of becoming a filmmaker. It's just one step in that process. It's not everything. Even if you can. I know lots of folks that have won awards at top festivals, but have never put it together to make their feature film. That's like winning the, you know, Little League World Series, but never going on to play another level. So I think, you know, I encourage you to keep writing. I encourage you to keep making short films until you feel ready to make the jump from short to feature. Even after I had my first successful short, which premiered at Cannes, I did not feel ready. I was not like, I'm a director. I know how to work with actors. I know how to do this whole thing and finance it and put it together. I was not ready. So I felt like I needed to make more short films in that next year to get ready. It's just like practice. So that next year I made 3 short films. One of them ended up being successful on the festival circuit. It's called Stop. And with those 2 short films back to back, I said, okay, I'm clearly hitting a nerve here. Something's working. And I'm a year and a half older now. I felt more mature and ready to take that next step to feature. So I think I encourage you to keep writing. I encourage you to keep making shorts. I encourage you to keep attending the festivals and applying to the labs and the residencies, because through that network and through that participation on, you know, at the next level, now all of a sudden you're starting to, you know, obviously gain confidence and gain a network that's going to help you facilitate making that jump from short to feature.
Right. And yeah. And also regarding, you know, your short, Eric has a question. He actually, for you personally, what was the process for you, like going from your short Stop to your first feature, Monsters and Men? Did you have that script for Monsters and Men ready and start sharing with known contacts, or did you get an agent manager from your short and take that path?
No. So I was not ready. I made Stop, you know, as a part of a school assignment. So it was, you know, I was at NYU. It was my 3rd year. I was getting ready to graduate. So after I made the short film, it was kind of dumb luck that it got into Sundance. I made it for $500 and it got in. And so I go to Sundance. I had a conversation with one of the actors who was in my film, who so happened to be a New York City police officer. It was that conversation that I had at Sundance, totally random. It had nothing to do with the short itself. We were just talking. And then through that conversation, I said, whoa, this is a way that I could potentially expand. So it was just the seed of the idea. Fast forward 6 months later, I'm not thinking about Monsters and Men. It's not even a concept at this point. And then I went back to that conversation and said, oh, this is possible. I can take that conversation and it could expand my short somehow. So I went back to the drawing board, I would say, after 6 months and finally cracked this idea of doing a triptych. Because to me, it was, I'd only had experience doing short films. And I thought, okay, well, what if I started with 3 expanded shorts and put them together in the same world? It was just an easier path. I think about this career a little bit like it's obviously a marathon. They say life is a marathon, but I would say it's more like the Olympics, right? You're every 3 or 4 years, you're putting together a big project or a big event, and you need a lot of energy. And how do you train for that, one sort of big push? And, Monsters and Men was that sort of Olympic training, was like through the script process, through the writing process, through the development process, I get one shot at qualifying for the Olympics and then one shot at making it. And that was sort of like the path that I took. I was like, I really have to conserve a certain amount of energy. I need the right coaches around me. I have to do that because now film school is done. I'm on my own. I've got a son who's now 6 months old. Like, what do? I was kind of in this, I'm looking at Uber applications. Like, how am I going to do this? I've got a loan, $330,000 of student debt. How am I going to pay this off? This is crazy. And I really had to kind of like hunker down, realize every day I wake up, I have to focus on the script. And every day I have to try to use that network that I built in film school once my script is ready to start, getting it out there. And I think that was a little bit of the process for me, was writing. For those of you that aren't writers, obviously it's a lot tougher because, especially without context, it's very difficult to get great scripts unless you're developing them yourselves. So unless you have other great writers or access to it, the road is just harder. So, directing music videos, directing commercials, there's other avenues towards directing, but without the scripts and the content, it makes it much more difficult to take that path solely as a director. As a writer, you can create the content yourself. It's hard, but you can do it. And then once you make it, then you're all of a sudden you're playing at a different level. Once you get that, I don't know if I quite answered the question, but hopefully there was something in there.
Yeah. And in terms of, networking and approaching industry representatives. So Joe asked a question over in the chat box. How open are industry people to visual and video attachments to a screenplay? In the literacy world,
it's not customary unless it's something that's like it happens. Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's visual treatments. Everything's different. Everything's kind of expanded in the last 5 years. Especially with Zoom, you're getting a lot less interaction. Before it was kind of go in the room. People just want the content. They want the pitch. That's the thing that's really going to sell you and the way you present that material, obviously, as the visionary of that particular project. It's the more you know the material, the more you can discuss that material and with specificity. Like for instance, Monsters and Men was a project that wasn't just like dreamed up. It was something that I knew very well because Eric Garner got killed, on a block I used to deliver pizza. So it was in my backyard. I was talking about something that other people they only knew from the news. They didn't know what the street looked like or what the deli looked like or what those communities look like. They didn't know what it looks like in a Puerto Rican household. I grew up in one. There were just certain nuances of the thing that I was making that I can then present to the world. And I think the more specific you can be with your material, the more universal that becomes. And that goes for your pitches. Look, if you have an amazing visual treatment, yeah, why not? for sure. It should complement your script. You know, whether it's a couple of pages of just a tone or a style of your project. If it's a video teaser or a link, yeah, why not? Again, the quality of that thing is what you will be judged by. If you think it's cool and other people don't, then you have a problem. So I don't know how else to say. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you go outside, like, you kind of know, like, that sweatshirt's a little too tight, or I look good, or whatever it is. I look good. I feel good in what I'm wearing. And I look good is really subjective, right? Like, it's how you feel about what you're wearing. And that confidence can go a really long way. So the same thing, how confident you are about that thing that you're submitting, great. You know, maybe people are going to love it. But you have to understand, once you put that in the body of your email, once you put a sentence in the body of your email, you're now being judged by that. You're being judged by what you post on Instagram. You're being judged by what you post on Twitter. So all of these things is your resume. It's your calling card. For me, I'm not on any of that stuff. I was at some point, and then I realized, like, not the right move for me. There's lots of people that are incriminating themselves, whether it's through a tweet that they meant good intentions and it didn't fly well. And all of a sudden, you know, like, as I was building my career, I thought I should be judged on the quality of my work and nothing else, not promoting myself. And I tried that. I went that route. I definitely, during Monsters and Men, I was self-promoting, and it was like, come see my movie and come please. And I just felt like I was begging. And I was really talking to, like, my 300 or 3,000 friends. Like, it's not that many people in the grand scheme of the industry who you actually want to see your movie. Of course you want your friends, but I could email them or call them. Do I have to post online a picture of my poster? Like, I stepped back from that situation and realized, like, yeah, look, it's great to get people information about your work, and it's great to get people to support you. There's lots of other ways to go about it. Picking up the phone is a way, sending a nice text message, being specific. So I thought, I'm going to really just make my relationships quality. And if that number grows, great. But I'm not going to worry about trying to promote myself. I'm really going to try to worry about focusing on my script and getting it in the hands of people that can make it. So I've just been busy. I've been busy with work. And I think that work begets work. So the hardest thing you can do is make that first one. But once you make the first one, now all of a sudden you're in the league, so to speak. And then, yes, other work will become a lot easier once you get the first one made.
Cool. And I had just a question about something you mentioned before. I was wondering if you could expand upon it, because I think it's very, very interesting. You had said the more specific you are, the more universal it becomes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just wondering if you could expand a bit on that. Like, how does a specific audience or a specific niche how does that become more universal?
I would say, like, I'll give the example I like to use, which I don't know if everybody's seen it, but it's the Tokyo Story. It's a beautiful movie set in Japan, obviously. And it's a very simple movie. I haven't seen it. I saw it in film school. It was on one of those, like, you know, must-see films. So I just, you know, threw it on. And it's amazing. Like, why does a young Black and Latino kid from, from the Bronx and Staten Island, like, why am I relating to this movie in Japan, this love story? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. Like, I didn't grow up around folks like that. But all of a sudden, I'm crying. I'm connecting to this movie on a different human level. And it was just ultra specific. I think they didn't try to make it for an American audience. They tried to make it for their audience, and it just so happened to relate to me. I think oftentimes everyone's trying to write what they think is cool or what people are going to like. And I think that's different than having just good taste or just knowing what hasn't been done before. They're two different things, right? I think people should be encouraging themselves to make things that haven't been done before, or to make them in ways that haven't been done before. So I want to do a love story, right? Like, obviously there's been lots of love stories, but I want to do it like this. It's never been done like this before. How specific can I be in that? What is my perspective that I can bring to that particular love story? Look, I used to work, my first job was working at Chuck E. Cheese, right? I used to dance as the rat. That was literally my first job, growing up. And, like, I don't know too many other people that used to dance as the rat. I don't know too many other people. I'm sure that, you know, clearly I worked with 3 or 4 of them, but like I know those folks, and I had that job for like 2 years. So all I'm saying is like, that is so unique when people hear that, because they don't know. That's so unique about my experience. And I think those are the things that you need to tap into your projects, no matter who you're working with. Will Smith, Mark Wahlberg, all those folks that you will meet along the way, they want to know who you are. Where are you coming from? What makes you uniquely you? Because that's what's going to give you your perspective to whatever story, whether you're directing your own material or somebody else's material. It's how you interpret that material. So I would say, again, it's when you're making your scripts, you're not trying to, you know, just write a movie for everybody. I mean, yes, you hope everybody loves it, but that's just not possible. There's no movie that's 100% rotten on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever it is. Like, it's just not possible, no matter, even if you love it. There's going to be people that don't like your thing. So you're not trying to write to that percentage of people. You're trying to write to who you think is going to come watch your movie. And it doesn't matter if it's 5 people or 50 people or 500. Obviously, you want the bigger number, you know, and if you have good taste, more and more people will see what you're trying to do. But it's like anything, right? If you're online, I remember being on social media, you can read through the posts. If people feel like they're trying to say too much, like, you start really being critical about how people are presenting themselves online. People read your material the same way. They're like, they're trying to do this. Like, people start projecting what they think you're trying to do. You're trying to talk to the masses. You're trying to, I see they're trying to do that. Like, just stay within yourself. Do the things that you want to do. Be specific about your upbringing and your story, and bring that to every project that you have. And just keep it simple. Don't try to do too much. I think that's what we do, right? And if we think about the most beautiful films, they're just the most simple. It's the most simple concept, the most simple story. And it's not trying to do too much. We oftentimes, because it's just the way, it's natural. It's natural to try to get exposure. It's natural to try to get attention. That's what children do, right? We try to make it flashy so that people are going to like it. And you're like, no, sometimes the most simple meat is the most delicious. I'm sorry for any vegans out there, but like, sometimes the most simple dishes are the most delicious. It's not with all the condiments on it. You know, it's just the most simple ingredients. And you want to treat yourself with that level of respect, with very simple ingredients that are going to help you make that thing you want to make. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. That's really great insight. And then we had a question, which a lot of filmmakers and screenwriters have. Do you have any advice on getting a manager or agent? Was that helpful with your first feature?
Advice: write a great script. If you have a great script, believe me, you will be able to put it in the right hands. It's when the script is not great, you're hitting walls. You know, it's just the way it is. If you have a great script, you will find that person. It's sort of, you know, the line, and if you build it, you know, he will come. You know, it's a little bit of, you have to build that thing, and then believe me, people are going to come to get that. You know, it's like any new restaurant or new ice cream shop or new store. People want good quality stuff, and they will find it because they're looking for it. They need the content. So you just need the content. If you don't have it, it's going to be very difficult. And for me, at some point, I remember I wrote the first draft. I had met some folks at a festival similar to Big Apple, who had produced a film called Beast of a Southern Wild. And they loved my short film. They loved the short film Stop, and they just said, keep in touch. Sure enough, when I had the concept for Monsters and Men, I thought, oh, it's the same world. Maybe they would be interested in my feature. So I remembered that they were interested in me. This was now 6 months later. I decided to write the script. I just said, hey, look, I'm developing a project. We should keep in touch about it when I have the script. So I just kind of seeded out the idea that I was making a feature. And to see if they would be even excited about it. And I didn't write a long book in the email. It wasn't one of these, I went to film school and sold my whole resume. It was none of that. It was just, hey, I remember meeting you at Sundance. Great. I hope all is well. I'm making this feature, wanted to put it on your radar. Simple. Great. Let us know when you have a script. 6 months later, they were checking in after 3 months. I didn't have the script after 3 months. They were checking in. Hey, that script you told us about, do you have it? So all of a sudden, I'm like, man, I need to get this script. I got them excited about this thing I don't have. So I created buzz around this thing I didn't even have. But it gave me an engine, and it gave me something to look forward to and to work towards. And I think you have to kind of create these little obstacles for yourself in order to attract some attention. And I think, same thing with agents. I was introduced to my agent by a fellow producer. So a producer, up and coming independent producer that wanted to work on my film was like, hey, I know this guy, Craig Castell over at Endeavor. He would love this because he did a movie called Fruitvale Station with Ryan Coogler. Sent it to Craig. There you go. The rest is history.
Would you say that it's possible for an emerging screenwriter to reach out to an agent through like a cold call or a cold pitch, or do you have to sort of go through networks and connections and things like that?
It's possible. It makes it harder. It's just, again, it feels like spam. If I don't know you, why? It's just, they get so many emails. It's just unsolicited, right? If someone put a package on your door, it doesn't matter if it was a brand new bike, you'd be skeptical of that thing on your doorstep. You'd just be like, how did that get in here? Mm-hmm. You'd be skeptical of it. It like literally, if I got an Amazon package that I didn't order, I would be skeptical of opening it. It would sit there for a couple of weeks. I'd ask my wife. I wouldn't open it. It's not mine. I don't know whose it is. I didn't order it. So you have to understand that's how people are viewing that email that comes in. Hi, my name is Michael. Hi, my name is Amy. I went to USC or whatever. Like all of that just feels like, is this spam? I get 1,000 of these emails. I get 1,000 emails from every festival across the world. Unless it has my name on it, that feels like it's written to me specifically. Even then, I'm like, how did they get my email? Did we meet at a festival? Did I meet and give out my contact information? And if I didn't, I probably don't want people emailing me.
What about
that's usually the approach.
Okay, and now what about like, let's say you don't have connections or a network at this point. What do you think about things like screenplay competitions or databases like Inktip or the Blacklist, things like that?
100%. Submit. Blacklist, submit to everything. Submit to every, look, which ones are the good ones, and you can, and the good ones are the ones that have a track record. Right. Meaning the people that submit to those labs have gone on to make a film. If there's 50, there are tons of labs out there, but nobody's making movies, then maybe those labs aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. A lab is a laboratory, which is a place where you go to make something. It's not where you go to just get an accolade. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. If you use it in the sense that it was designed, then great. If it's just used for a filler on your resume, then save you $50 or $70 or whatever it is to submit. If you are using it to gain knowledge and information and access to that particular thing because it's going to help make that next step, then absolutely it's worth double than what you would pay for it, because it's going to give you more. And you can't be cheap with yourself. And I think those are the things where, look, there's not one person on this call 100% that is in greater debt than I am. Nobody took out $330,000 to go to film school. So everyone's starting in a better financial situation than I am. So I don't, there's no excuse for I didn't have the money or it was too expensive, because I'm still, look, I just worked with Will Smith. I hope the film goes on to win Oscars. I don't know, but I still am paying down student loan. So I don't know too many other people that are in their fourth feature who are still paying. So but was it worth it? Absolutely. I've got a beautiful family. I met my wife in film school. I've got 2 kids. I've worked with Will. Like, I don't know. I feel rich, but I feel rich because it's not because of how much money I have in my bank account, because NYU was expensive. I feel rich by the experiences that I had and by the ability of me not telling myself that I wasn't worth the $50 submission. Right. I wasn't worth the $150 lab. Like, I didn't cheap out on myself. I found a way to get it done and to find the money to do what I love to do, or what I thought I loved to do. And I think that was enough for me. So I think as you're thinking about, should I, I'm not sure, and it's always based in some sort of financial, you have to kind of move past that. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to invest in yourself. It's like a baseball player that doesn't have a professional tee or a batting net or the best equipment. Like, you need it. Right. Sometimes you have to dress the part to look the part. And you have to sometimes get that extra $300 piece of equipment that is going to take you to the next level. And you have to think about your careers like that, because if you're skimping on yourself, it's going to feel that way in your work. And you really need to invest in yourself. And look, there's no greater investment than in your education, whether it's in film school or not film school. It's in labs or grants. But yeah, there are so many different paths to going, to making it. And I know lots of folks that have done both. I can only speak to mine. I didn't have the motivation. I needed the deadlines. I needed the structure of a film school, me personally, because that's just the way I work. I needed that. I grew up as an athlete with coaches, and I grew up in that. So there was always some sort of structure. There was, and the same reason there's festivals and why festivals exist. There's a structure. I'm not just, otherwise you just put your film out and project it on your wall and invite some friends over to the house. Right. There's structure to these things, and there's a reason they exist.
Right. Thank you very much. All right. So in conclusion, where can our audience check out your films? I know Joe Bell, we mentioned, with Mark Wahlberg, and then you have the Will Smith film coming out, King Richard. When will these films be available, or where can they be seen?
Joe Bell will come out at the end of July, I believe. Everything was affected by the pandemic. So right. I think it's coming out at the end of July. Roadside Attraction is releasing. They did Judy and Peanut Butter Falcon. So they've done some good titles in the last couple of years. So I'm excited about that. And then HBO Max and Warner Brothers is releasing King Richard on Thanksgiving weekend. So take your family, bring 50 people. It'll be fun. It's a great. They're both very different movies. I hope you enjoy both. And yeah, let me know what you think about them.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on your upcoming projects. Joe Bell, King Richard, and you have another project in development right now as well.
Yeah, I'm in prep on a TV series called We Own This City. It's David Simon and George Pelicanos. It's their follow-up to The Wire. It's not Wire related, but it's shooting in Baltimore. It's a 6-part miniseries for HBO. So I'm headed to Baltimore on Saturday to see all the bags packed. And we're ready to go.
Wow. All right. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for, I know you're very busy, so thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. We really appreciate it. Congratulations on your project.
Good luck out there. All right.
Thank you so much for all of your wisdom. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now.